Hello and welcome to Buying and Beyond, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of retail buying. We're Kate and Linz, and together we have over 30 years experience in retail.
We'll be talking all things retail buying and beyond, so grab your drink of choice and come and have a giggle with us.
Hi guys, today we're joined by co-founder of the Better Trends company, Louise Healy. She's here today to talk to us about her career journey and of course all things trend. So the Better Trends company are a trend and design agency that gives you focused trend insights and design strategies to fuel creativity and empower confident decisions. By turning trends into actionable tools, they help create purposeful products that resonate with your audience. Better trends lead to better products and brighter futures for your brand, your customer, and your planet. Hi, Louise.
Hey.
Thanks for joining us. So we first met at a couple of top drawers, haven't we now? I think we've met a few times at a few top drawers. Love that show. I think it's such a great vibrant show, and they've definitely done a lot of work to bring on lots of people like yourselves into the content and into, you know, all the talks and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a really great place to network and find new people.
Yeah, we love it. It's so nice. It feels a bit like family now, I think. Now we keep seeing each other, we keep seeing everyone there. Clarion have been amazing and really supportive of small businesses. And I think, you know, as we're a small business, when they approached us to be the official trends partner, we were absolutely thrilled because, of course, you do see other big companies paired with other trade shows. And I think this really reaffirms that kind of commitment to SMEs, that idea of really helping each other in a sort of community, which is really what we're all about. That's the ethos of Better Trends.
Yeah, lovely. Great. Well, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. As a buyer myself, trends have formed such a huge part of my role, my job. I love it. Absolutely love all things to do with finding emerging trends, looking at colors, all that kind of stuff. We used to run big workshops everywhere I've worked, and I've been massively part of running those with, you know, the design team and the marketeers and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, it's probably the part of the job that I would love to spend way more time on, but I just don't have the time to do it. So I think I'm really excited to talk about all the things that you've got in the pipeline to help people like myself, get more sort of content and ideas and inspiration. So first of all, shall we just start at the very beginning? And do you want to just give us a sort of whistle-stop tour of your career leading up to starting Better Trends?
Yeah, it's difficult when people ask you this when you've been in the industry a really long time. So like, 20 odd years. I don't know how whistle stop it can be. I can give you an overview. And I think this is really nice for people to hear. So I've been told, is that my journey and loads of people's journeys are not linear. It doesn't exist. If it did, it definitely doesn't anymore. That everyone goes from, you know, climbing this bit of rung the ladder to the next one, and you slowly work your way up to be the CEO or whatever it is. I think my journey particularly has been very wiggly. I think in design thinking, when I teach, we call it a fuzzy front end, which sounds,
I like that. I'm going to use
ruder than it is, but it's this kind of like, you know, really wiggly journey until the line gets a bit straighter and a bit straighter, and you're like, oh, I'm here. This is okay.
I've arrived.
And you know what? All that fuzzy, blurry, wiggly line journey, that's part of you and your not just your career, but your creative path. You know, it makes you who you are. So
like your creative DNA or
exactly.
Yeah.
No, exactly that. And I think it's super, super important. So we've had interns and we've had assistants and we've had lots of different, you know, young people at Better Trends and just in general reach out.
Yeah.
They're always so concerned, like, oh, you know, but I've been doing this. And now what if I move sideways? What? That's great.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's a good thing. Why do you want to be stuck in one place?
Challenge your thinking as well. I think that's really important, isn't it?
100%. And I think that's how you're a better creative, you're a better designer, you're a better buyer, you're a better cultural magpie. You understand things if you have a wider view. So that's my take on, I think, everything really. And that's why I'm really proud to say I didn't start as a trend person at all. I started out as a stylist. I graduated from the fashion school St Martin's and I started out as a stylist.
Oh, that's a fantastic uni to go to. I was at London College of Fashion, so in the arts. But yeah, I mean, we always look to you guys as inspiration.
It was really fun. It was a fun place. It was quite mad, and it was in a really old, crumbly building on Charing Cross.
Oh, I used to go there. I had a friend at Martin's, and I just loved all the little in some of the art studios, these like little holes that you could go in and like create your own little room. And it was just like, basically would be not health and safety now, but
Oh yeah, it definitely probably shouldn't have happened. It was like this crazy labyrinth space of weird. But I didn't study fashion design. I studied fashion communication. And it's a great course. It's still running, and it really is everything to do with promotion, PR, journalism, photography, image making, storytelling. So I really took that. I loved it. I'm still friends with several amazing people from that course. And went on to work for magazines. I was a contributing editor for GQ magazine. I worked for Vogue. I did fashion styling for celebrities. I worked for lots of record labels and did a lot of sort of musician styling and stuff throughout my 20s.
Oh my gosh, who was your favorite person to style?
I did some really cool people, and when you meet them and you're like, oh my gosh, you met people that were your sort of heroes when you were younger.
Oh, lovely.
But I luckily, through my contacts at GQ, I ended up working for Mark Ronson during the version tour. So I styled him for quite a while, and he's just lovely.
Oh, lovely. Nice.
So that was really good fun. And really, we traveled a lot. We did a lot of stuff, we did the Brits, lots of different award shows. And that was cool.
Got to see all the drama. What happened at the Brits?
Oh, so much. Oh, I can't even. There was so much.
Like I signed an NDA for it.
Yeah, I don't think I should go into that, but it was definitely fun. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
So, and then I decided that I kind of wanted a responsible job, or at least to do something different. I think freelance is really hard. And lots of people, I've been doing like trend work by them. People had said, oh, you understand about trends. And I was saying, what? And they were like, well, yeah, of course. I just look what's happening and I dress people. And they're like, oh, you're really on trend. Okay. I didn't really understand that sort of concept. It's like, of course I would look ahead and see what's important. And then a friend of mine was working at WGSN and I got some freelance work there. Worked on more.
Great company.
Yeah. So really understood, okay, this is a thing. Forecasting is a thing. And I did some freelance work in that kind of space, and I've worked for some of the big companies in that area. So it was exciting. It was a really exciting time for people, but it was very fashion based. People didn't really understand anything apart from catwalks. And then I went into a really big corporate job. I wanted to do a bit more like, well, how does this work? How does it work? Like, I don't think marketing is doing a great job, for instance, at that point in time. And I got this job with an American company that sold fashion accessories. And I basically commuted from London to Chicago several times a month.
Wow. Oh my God.
Really long. And it was great. It was really fun. I suddenly understood the process a lot more of like, oh, designers then go this, and like PD and, assortment reviews. And it was great because I got a crash course in retail, and it was really useful for me to understand that. And so I worked there.
Chicago is such a great city. We used to comp shop Chicago for Christmas.
Isn't it great?
It's brilliant. I've been a few times. Yeah, it's got that kind of like edgy vibe, but still there's a little bit of commerciality, and that's what we really quite liked about it. Whereas New York's great, but it wasn't really easy to see how we could translate that into stores. Whereas Chicago felt a lot more commercial, and I loved it as a city. Some of the
everyone says it's friendly New York kind of.
Yes, yeah.
And there's a great vintage scene, a great music scene, and it's really creative. I loved it, and I can see. Yeah, I know what you mean. It has that slight commercial vibe, but then it's still has a lot of artists there. And
Yeah, lots of like plant shops. Because I used to work for a garden centre, so we'd go to a few of the there's like sort of some big garden centre type style shops on the outskirts. And they were just fantastic. Some of the plants in there that they bring in, like from overseas, like absolutely incredible species. So it's really interesting. And the people were so passionate about what they're doing as well. It's, great city. Loved it.
Definitely. I think
That's one hell of a commute, though, I must admit.
Yeah, it wasn't the easiest. I mean, I probably shouldn't have paid tax, to be honest, for a while. I wasn't really here a whole lot, but you live and learn. But because it was a huge company, it had over 5,000 stores worldwide, and lots of franchises, and so we travel a lot. And like I think like we were saying, back in the day, trend forecasting was traveling to cities, seeing what people were doing, going retail shopping. I did a lot of sort of interviewing people and like intercepts in stores, and it was really great because you would do like qualitative market research, I guess, in a way. And then you would also street spot, like take photographs, which is what I did with GQ. So I was really, confident in doing just stopping strangers. We did that a lot. And it was a really nice way of understanding street style and understanding what was happening pre-social media. I mean, we had Instagram, but it wasn't really used in the same way as it is now.
Do you think that's having a bit of an impact on trends then, like the whole AI, social media, people not really sort of, I mean, I'm massively generalizing here. I'm sure there's lots of people that still do the sort of more one-to-one way that we were used to back in the day. But do you think that is having an impact?
I think it absolutely is. And it has done, it's changed. Well, there's so much discourse, there's so many conversations around cause, the benefit of cause, or it's not gatekeeping, everyone gets to explore and experiment with their visual identity. You can be a mermaid one week and fairy core and then goth the next week. And it gives people, especially younger people who are experimenting with their identity, that access. And I think that's great, but I also think we've lost some of the substance, which is the music, the meetups, the politics of some of these, when we think, obviously we always go back to punk, but new wave romantics, any of these kind of subcultures that had a lot of meaning beyond the aesthetic. I do think that is recognized and it's returning. There are, I feel, people like Sharmadean Reid, who runs the Stack, have spoken a lot about culture isn't just online, culture is offline. And we're almost seeing that come full circle now, and people find specific niches offline because you're not tracked. No one is checking your data. No one's doing anything. And we're seeing that return to writing things on paper, reading books, finding offline communities. It's slow, but it's building.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's really interesting. My gosh. Seeing how that's going to then evolve out, that's going to be really interesting, isn't it? Because we've just been so used to having everything reported to on our face on our phones,
Yeah, and it makes us passive and it makes us accept what's in front of us. And I teach at University of the Arts as well. I've gone full circle. So I teach there, and I think they get bored of me. I'm always talking about criticality. We need to question stuff. We can't, especially now. I mean, we've seen what's happened in the US and in Middle East, and we're getting fed certain parts of certain stories. Need to be, and that goes with everything. Why is something on trend? Why should we do this? Why should we do color of the year? Why should we do whatever? As brands and businesses and designers and creatives, we need to question things a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, fantastic. So you went from the job in Chicago, WGSN, and then
I know this is like a really long-winded way of telling you this whistle-stop tour.
No, I love it. I love it.
And then I'd always wanted to work for an agency, like in-house, and figure out that, and that intrigued me, working rather than client side, working agency side. And I've been working more and more on sort of future forecasting. I'd been doing a lot of trend, which is definitely the now.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've been teaching, guest lecturing at the same time. And doing a lot more like, how do we forecast? How do we work those things out? And thinking a lot more about in 5 years' time, what could that look like? Kind of ideas. And it turned out that a big agency called Flamingo, which was part of Omnicom Group, wanted someone to do that in their futures. They just started this kind of, it was a market research and creative development agency. And they had this kind of futures space. I was like, wow, this is unusual. So I went there for a few years and it was great. And I worked with really big clients that were asking really exciting questions. So I'd gone from really fashion retail kind of mid-market stuff to really big brands asking like, okay, in 5 years' time, what does our new customer look like? What do they want? What do they need? And that was like Swarovski, Samsung, Ikea, Google, did a lot with Oculus in terms of VR.
Oh, wow. What was it like working with Ikea? Always held them in really high regard.
Really,
Yeah,
they're so
brilliant.
smart. Oh my
Yeah,
God, they're
so
really
good with their
thoughtful.
focus groups and things like that, aren't they? You know, going and actually living in people's houses and seeing how they live and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they really understand their customer. They really delve into the why. Again, they have that criticality. Well, why would our customer want that? What does their life look like? What does their needs for a renter or for someone that works nights? They really question all these things if your life looks like this. And I think that's why they're so good.
Yeah, they are. And they're going to
So
stand the test of time, aren't they? Because they're always challenging, questioning, thinking forward.
exactly that. I think it really goes to show. So yeah, worked with some great sort of fashion lifestyle, did Adidas, did some stuff for Chanel as well. It was really exciting. But yeah, it was also you're not seeing it on the ground. Lots of companies, not necessarily the ones I've mentioned, but lots of companies do want to tick boxes and say, hey, so what's the future of sustainability? Great, thanks. And then not action anything. So,
Yeah, exactly. Well, our sustainability policy is this box ticked, this box ticked.
yes. Oh, we've had some research done on it. Thanks. And it just gets a bit disheartening. So,
yeah, I totally agree with you.
hence starting Better Trends and doing something better, hopefully doing it in a better way. That's
Oh,
why.
fantastic. So how long has the Better Trends company been going for now?
So it's been going for 3 years now.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
And how did you come up with the name?
So Natalie and I, we met at Top Drawer. And
Oh, did you?
yeah, that's how we know each other. So we didn't know each other before at all. She came to one, I'd been asked as a future forecaster in this agency that I was working at, I'd been asked to do a talk on the retail reveal stage. And Natalie was in the front row and like nodding, like lots for us. Like, yeah, wow, she's really into this. Great.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm affecting one person, even if no one else is listening. But she came up afterwards and was like, that was great, but I'm a small business. Natalie ran her own independent greeting cards business. And she's an amazing designer. And who should, like many amazing designers, should have been super, super confident with what they knew. She said, I can't find any trend information. I can't afford these big companies. Everything you're saying is great, but what does that mean for me? So I was like, oh, ouch. Yeah, you can't afford it. That's basically it. And I was just enraged that I had to say that to her. It's like, that's completely unfair. How do we help? How do we change that? And that was that was just before COVID. That was January 2020. And we stayed in touch and we just kept speaking. And
it's one of those subscriptions that, I mean, I found a few businesses I've worked in, it's the first thing to go when you're struggling, like as an overhead, because a lot of people don't really understand why you need it. Because you hired a buyer, you've hired a designer. Why do you then need this? Why do you then need this service? But, as we always used to scream from the rooftops, I'm not going to get inspired sitting at a desk in a retail park or wherever the office is and not getting out there and and seeing things. Like, how are we supposed to move our product ranges on? Like, from this desk and these four walls, it's not going to happen. So it's to have something like yourselves is Really,
It's
really, really
exactly
exciting.
that. I think you've just hit the nail on the head of what is wrong with so much of the industry, because every designer, buyer, anyone, merchandiser, VM, anyone that we speak to is saying that, like, we're under so much pressure all the time to produce. One of my friends is a designer for a really great company. It does wonderful designs that everyone would know and think, they do a great job, but she is just constantly under pressure to churn them out. And it's impossible to be inspired as creatives, as anyone. We need brain space to think, process, and get inspired. And so we've got time pressure. We've got sort of that pressure of performing, when we've also got that pressure of money. If you're an SME, then where do you can't take time off. Where do you go? When do you go? All that information overwhelm. You can just search. We've all done it. You can just doom scroll for hours and not find anything. What am I doing?
Also, you might not have that kind of expertise. I'd like to think that I'm fairly good at picking up on trends, but I would definitely not see it from the same way that you would, and put it together and maybe come up with like concepts. I always used to say I would do a design brief with the trend workshop, and then afterwards it's not just about that, it's about the concepts. How do we then pull this into concepts for our product ranges and for our stores? It's that bit that not a lot of people have the experience in, and you've got huge, great big budgets to spend money on as well. You want to make sure the research is there, and you've got a lot of people in these businesses are like, but what's the data telling us? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's really hard for buyers and designers now. It's an impossible job.
It is. It's really tricky, and I completely sympathize, because on one hand you're like, redo a bestseller. Okay, how do we, update the core? What's seasonal and trend, as it's known, as we have it in our minds, is kind of left as a nice to have. But we all know that 5% of your collection, even if it's whatever it is, it's a small percentage really of the overall assortment. It drives everything, and trends, the way that I work with them and the way that most people should work with them, but don't, because we've changed the meaning of trends recently with social media and what is trending, what is a trend. That's a big conversation. But it's really, it's the Ikea thing. What is a big trend? What's a macro idea that's infiltrating everything? How should we change our offer to our legacy consumers, but also appeal to new consumers?
Exactly.
What do people need? And I think by looking at the big picture stuff, which is what we do, then filtering it down into, like you say, the concepts, and then which is why it's a really unique proposition to have someone like me and someone like Natalie who then translates it, and it's like, well, this is how we work with it, this is how it translates into usable color materials, styles.
I think that having that partnership in a business together is so of the moment, isn't it? I think that's why Kate and I started our business, because we're both buyers in industry, but we brought very different skill sets because of all the companies we've worked at. And it's kind of similar with you guys as well. And you're a powerful duo, aren't you? Because you have got so much to give people from that wealth of different backgrounds. And what did you say? It was the squiggly line, drawing it together, So in terms of buyers and designers, then what sort of exciting things have you got coming up to help? And do you want to tell us a bit more about your membership and things like that?
Yes. So this is, anyone that was at Top Drawer will have seen this, and obviously we spoke to you guys a lot about this. So it really answers everything that we've just moaned about, and everything in the world. The idea is that everyone is time poor, information overwhelm. Like you say, sometimes you don't know where to look, but we all need to just keep going. And so what do SMEs do? And the idea that we are the better trends company doesn't mean that we are superior to everyone else. It may do, but the idea is that really we're trying to do better. And so by not promoting things that don't help, i.e. colour of the year, I've got a real bugbear about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
We
hate
used to, it
colour
used to be
vignettes.
massive where I've worked before.
Yeah.
We would always try and include it. And if once you found out about it, you almost like quickly like change something so
Yeah,
that
and everyone wants to speed to market. Quick, 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 quick. I'll
yeah.
change it to this. It's a marketing tactic, and I
Mm.
don't really think it's useful. People can argue with me about that. I don't mind. I have a
I like
firm
that.
belief
Controversial.
that it's useless. It doesn't appeal to everyone. It's great. I mean, I think it's really smart of Pantone because that's
Yeah.
an entire, their entire assortment. But it's these things are not there to help people. They are there for overconsumption. They are there for profit and profit only. And I think that SMEs, by the very nature of smaller businesses, are better for the environment, better for us as being mindful consumers, better for growth, considering people and planet, better for communities who have independent retailers. All of these things make everything better. And that's why we want to do trends better, not at the cost of everything else.
Yeah.
So by not saying you must do these things, but by offering, which is our new membership, which is a monthly membership where you get a rundown of what's important, what is going on in culture, which is what I was saying about the big idea. Take a step back. What's happening in the world? What impacts my audience? And you
Yeah.
need to think about your audience. There's no point in doing color of the year if no one's going to buy it.
No.
If it's electric blue and your audience, maybe that's not sold for you before, and maybe that's not a primary color that your audience would love.
Yeah. And
So
you're right. You're creating all this product to fit in with a
yeah,
marketing trend, basically.
it's
And
going
it's
to go
going
to
to go to
markdown.
landfill. Yeah.
Yeah, it's marked down, so you lose money, you lose your credibility in essence because you're not hitting your customer, but
Yeah.
at the same time, like you say, landfill. So
Mm.
really, I find the whole constant trends churn. This is from someone who lives and breathes trends. I find it ridiculous, and I'm the most anti-trends person you're probably ever going to find.
That's brilliant. I love that.
Um,
But
which
for the better. For the better.
Yes, exactly. For we are trying to do better. And trends, I always say this, trends are about people.
Mhm.
There's no trends without people. They don't exist by themselves somewhere on a
Yeah.
cloud that agencies go and pull down and go, look at this trend.
Yeah.
We understand our audience, we understand people. That's the magic. And
Yeah.
then we do it for people, we work with people. Which goes back to, our what we're saying about Ikea being great. They understand people.
Mm.
Understand your audience, understand their needs, their behaviors, understand what's happening in culture. Hey, presto,
Yeah.
you got a trend.
Fantastic. Brilliant. So you've just launched your membership.
Yes. And that is what we're talking about. So
It's just something that really caught my eye at the show as well. I
thank
thought,
you.
oh, so it's not anything like this out there. And I think, like going back to my point about how, that's the first thing to go when you're trying to cut costs in a bigger, in a large scale retailer, that if we had that access to that would be so much easier for us to get that signed off. And I think from a smaller business point of view, it means that you can start using something like that and flex it to when you can afford to do it in these really
Absolutely.
difficult times.
Yeah, well, exactly. We know that everyone's time poor and money poor. And like you say, you still need that evidence. So whether you're a freelancer whose work you want to sell into a bigger company or your own company or whatever it is, our membership is a monthly membership designed to give you that information that you need for a year ahead. So we've just had February delivered, and that will be for February 26th. So we had a really great call last week. Our membership works in a way that we present the information in a very big picture way, what's happening in culture, but we also translate it. That's why Natalie and I work together. So why do we want people to understand it? Why don't we just chuck a trend at them and go, off you go? Because I've seen it doesn't work. People don't understand. It doesn't land. And for people to understand and by people, I mean any designer or a marketer, visual communicator. If you understand what it is, you understand how it then can apply to you. Or it gives you that, it empowers you to be able to pitch it. If you are designing and you need to sell it into, as wholesale or as a design to license, anything, you can say this is important because. So we're giving you that cultural context, and then we are giving you the kind of more thematic design direction of, you get a palette, you get prints, you get graphics, you get icons, and we also even give you typography directions. So every month you get that direction. There's lots of ways you can use it. We never want to be prescriptive because, again, I don't think that is better. That leads to markdowns and landfill when people are forced to fit in a box. But we give you lots of variations of ways you could use these ideas. And then we give you the second week, after we've had a live chat through the deck that you get given, then we give you more inspo of, like we were talking about, places to go, things that are happening, galleries, retail pop-ups, films, anything that might be inspiring that by yourself trying to sift through what on earth to do or see is a nightmare. So we give you a curated list of our insider kind of tips. Then week 3, which is next week coming up, we have interviews with industry experts and real insiders who've been really know their stuff and you don't always get access to. So we have everyone from advertising photographers to we have the head of Clarion talking about trade shows. We have wholesale experts, color experts, a really great buyer who we are finalizing when they can come and join us. So just people who've been in the business can advise, and we'll talk about the relevance of trends and design to give you some actionable tips.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and then we have a Slack community as well. So, and we've got amazing people already joined, and everyone's super lovely. And I think we got a bit emotional because, first of all, we were like, well, we don't have a huge marketing budget. We're not hitting people over the head with this all the time. Maybe 5 people will join. 5 people joined. We were like, this is great. Then more people joined. Then more people joined.
Fantastic.
So we have a huge community already, and it's so exciting. And they are looking for community. They are supportive designers, and they're talking to each other and already network.
That really resonates with us as well. And we started our business because we wanted to collaborate, share information, join together. We don't all need to be hiding our secrets. It's not a secret, it's collaboration. That's what's going to make people survive the high street and the industry at the moment. If we just need to join hands and collaborate.
Absolutely. I think collaboration is key. And that idea of, it's not a secret. It's not that hard. And here's how you can do it. And we are sharing our 20-something years of experience. Yes. And we're making it really affordable at the moment. I should say this. I should actually tell people how much it is. It's £22 a month to join right now. And we're keeping that. It will go up. We can't keep it like that forever. But until we've filled all the slots that we've kind of set ourselves, we want to offer that to people who really need that £22 a month, then we're going to keep that price for a bit longer. And that's what you get every month. You get a lot of information for a really great price, and it's not locked in. You can leave anytime. It's, we don't believe in kind of holding you to ransom. It's kind of silly when subscriptions do that, but
I agree. Totally.
Like you say,
I feel like it's been your evolution, hasn't it? Everything you've done in your past, in your career, and you're doing now, and the way that the business has been in sort of leading up to this, it's what you've learned to pass on to other people. It's fantastic.
Definitely. And that's why I also still teach at University of the Arts. I teach forecasting and art direction. So let's come back to visual storytelling, essentially, but the why, the forecasting, what does that mean? So there's some great students, and it's, again, when you tell them things and you're like, well, I thought people knew that. They're like, what? Oh my gosh, no. And it's exactly as you said, it's so lovely to share and lift people up. And I think that's what we all need to do.
Definitely. So talking of sharing, I thought what I would just quickly do now is Kate and I have been doing a little bit of research on New York Fashion Week, which I think is the only one. Is that the only fashion week we've had so far?
There's been a few as well, haven't there? But
yeah. So these are our thoughts of what we've been seeing, and I'd love to get your views or like anything you've seen from the trade shows and things like that. So from New York, we have actually seen that a lot of designers weren't showing in New York this time round, which is really interesting. Obviously, I think that we can all talk about why that might be. They've chosen to show in Europe instead, which is obviously a big, like we're talking about political conversation, isn't it? Another thing which I think is really exciting and I'm such a champion of is Copenhagen, which is not officially a fashion week, but it's gaining in popularity. I think that's really exciting. I love what they do in Denmark. I think it's like even just their way of living is insane. It's so about the people, everything they do is about creating a better life for you. And it's not necessarily about being showy or fancy or da 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 da. It's really thinking about how to help you get through your life, if that makes sense.
yeah,
So to make that a proper fashion week destination, I think is something that would, move us on a bit. We've also seen that shirts are not going away, pared down or dressed up, particularly in blue. Pink in all shades. Pink is not going away. I mean, you can obviously our listeners can't see where we're sitting right now, but my entire house is pretty much a sort of gloss pink colour. Yeah. And then lastly, countryside chic is definitely in. We looked at a show from a designer called Philippa Kay, and for their autumn-winter pre-collection, they focused on the idea of heritage, iconic wardrobe pieces inspired by their Scandinavian heritage with elements that nod to the British countryside. So that's just some of the things that we've picked up on.
Wow, that's very detailed. I love
it.
I completely agree with what you're saying about Copenhagen. And I think there's a move away from the big four. Absolutely. I think Berlin Fashion Week was just on as well. That was wild. I think the creativity coming out of there is next level. And we're missing that in fashion. We're missing that. Well, exactly as we were saying before as well, the whole time pressure and the producing of collections, whatever level you're at, I think is just horrendous. The around is too quick. There's no room for artistry and creativity. And that's really stood out for me. The people that have shown that, I'm just in love with a few of the shows. Mainly from the men's collections, actually.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, I think they
don't get much of a spotlight, do they? I mean, I don't know if that's just because I've worked in more women's fashion accessories, more product that is bought by a woman.
Yeah. And I think maybe there's less pressure on them because of that. Yeah. There's the whole kind of maybe they have more space to experiment. I don't really know, but I think because of the inclusion of a lot of female models as well, it's become a really rich space, I think. I mean, saying that, I think there's some great shows. I thought Marc Jacobs was really interesting. These kind of puffy silhouettes. Again, shoes. The shoes have been insane. Shoes are having a moment. I think we're all bored of shoes. Is it ballet flat? Is it chunky? Is it this? Is it that? And there's a lot of experimentation in shoes. I think
didn't they have the hoof boot? Was that a couple of seasons ago? Did you see the hoof?
Yeah, there's a little Minnie Mouse shoe, and there's different versions. Like Sandy Liang has done their own version of the tabby, and I think there's lots of space for footwear to have a moment. It seems to be in New York already that's a thing, and some of the menswear shows, they were wild. But I loved, and also Sandy Liang, I really liked that show because it was really a move on in terms of that sort of texture mix.
Nice.
It was very novelty. They had a lot of, Sandy always does these really fun novelty pieces. It felt very childlike. I think one big trend that I've been seeing a lot is that the childhood trend. I felt like, the idea of the Minnie Mouse shoe, that Marc Jacobs had these oversized childlike shapes. Sandy had these little Polly Pocket. She had all these like little tiny things appliqued on, little sort of nods to a sort of 90s childhood.
Yeah.
It was really these really beautiful
Out.
kind of sugary shades. It was really nice and but still feminine. And then there were enough pieces that were tailored. I think tailoring the Calvin Klein suit. I just read a piece by, there's a really great strategist, cultural strategist called Eugene Healy, no relation. And he was talking a lot about that. Yeah. I just think all Healys are great. He's this really fun sort of cultural commentator. And sometimes I agree with what he says, sometimes I don't, but it's interesting stuff. And he was saying how the dark 80s is back and this whole kind of power suit, we don't care, money. I guess it's the quiet luxury and then ramped up if we're seeing an evolution of a trend. And those kind of really sharp power suits, very Gordon Gekko, Wall Street.
Yeah.
Tailoring is definitely back. I think it's really beautiful, but I worry about the social connotations of some of the ideas of where it's come from.
Sure, yeah. We've made leaps and bounds, changes. I don't know what the expression is, but we've moved away from that, thank God.
Yeah, so the idea that people are thinking it's back, I'm guessing maybe, well, it's definitely linked to the American politics that we're seeing right now, politics of money and individualism over anything else. So, of course, I see it resonating, but I don't know if, we should just leave that alone and just celebrate the tailoring by itself.
Absolutely, definitely. That would get my vote.
I would get my vote too. But I think in terms of people doing amazing stuff, I would go back to the menswear shows. I am obsessed with Kid Super. I think Kid Super is,
I'll look that up.
Tom Delane, who's the designer, is fantastic and just so creative and has the most brilliant ethos of humor and fun and being outrageous, but also if you follow Kid Super Instagram, you see Colm actually sewing the collection. He's involved. He's doing it. He's the creative force, but he's talented and he's an artist. He does a lot of painterly things that are translated into the fabric, but also experiments with what a fashion show is or could be. A few seasons ago, he did it as a stand-up comedy show, and you got all these famous New York comedians all dressed and doing this kind of stand-up thing. And then this season has just blown it all out the water, and he's done this incredible installation with artists. They had a live kind of wind-generated hurricane. They had an amazing singer from the Middle East. It was talking about politics, but also talking about money and talking about there was a bricolage element. They had a lot of brilliant tailoring. He's very, very good at tailoring, but also the idea of mix and match, and suits have been deconstructed and reconstructed with other parts. So there's a very patchworky feel to it that feels really fresh.
Wow.
He's great. He's amazing. If you don't know Kid Super, look him up. That's my advice to everyone. He's just done a collection with Bait. And so it's a very streetwear meets tailoring meets art kind of vibe. And I think that the expression of individuality, people are going wild for it because we don't see it. And that's the same with people like Willie Chavaria. Again, really big on the scene at the moment, menswear tailor, but really is talking about his own roots, talking about that idea of what being a Latin person is, casting street models through, as he says, their sexiness. And that idea of not being conventional, there's all sorts of shapes, sizes, people on that catwalk. And the idea that he's saying you can be attractive because when you're you exude something. It just feels like a really fresh take. And I love those two designers at the moment. And that would be my thing.
Wow, there's so much in that to unpack, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a lot. Sorry.
No, I love it. It's great. You could talk about it for hours. Brilliant. Well, that kind of answers my question, I think, unless you've got anybody else you want to talk about any brands that you're admiring at the moment. I suppose it's it's kind of wrapped up in those.
Yeah, I do think a lot of the collabs are really fun.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people who are doing process. So if you look on certain people's Instagrams, like even I saw there was an event that Theory did, and you could go behind in the atelier and they showed you, it was a whole presentation. And it was all about how they made their garments and the precision and the detail. And I think seeing that process, I also saw that Lacoste have released a lot of sort of campaign footage in a way that's all process about their heritage, how they make their embroidered logos. And seeing all the detail, I think we've seen process for so long of behind the scenes of influencers. It's boring. We want to see expertise.
Absolutely.
We want to see the detail, we want to see the artistry, and seeing that
the value that you're getting from those products.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why they're worth what they're worth, because of that absolute creative, artistic craftsmanship.
Yeah.
And fashion is devalued because of a lot of the crap fast fashion. It has a throwaway connotation because, again, the connotation of trend. Trend is like fast turnaround. Oh, it's trending, it's gone. That's not really what a trend is. And I think we need to reclaim fashion and trends away from the fast, crappy churn.
I love that. That's a nice one-liner at the end. So, as I'd mentioned to you, we do have a little segment in our podcasts where we ask our guests to enter into some retail therapy, get something off their chest, a funny story from their career, or anything that you want to sort of, tell our audience, a sort of a light-hearted, humorous moment in your career.
Lindsay, I had so many things. I was like, what should It's quite funny trying to think. So there was one that there's so many, mainly to do with Americans because of just the difference of culture. I think this one is a standout, like sort of, it couldn't really happen ever again, I don't think. It was just one of those perfect moments. And when I got the job with the American retailer, I'd not really been to the States before. I wasn't really aware of, especially then, this was like 210s. There was a lot of hierarchy, huge amount of hierarchy. I know, the way that the management system is labeled is still like that. And this particular company had a lot of like EVPs, SVPs, VPs, and then CMOs. And there was a lot of I'm this level, you're that level. And abbreviation and power. Power of the vice president of certain levels. So it was everyone was friendly. It's not that people weren't, but you could feel there was a power structure. And every season we would do a lot of traveling with buyers and go and look at different retailers. And, lots of buyers have done this. And one of the very senior executive vice presidents, and I think the CMO, came with about 12 buyers from all different categories. And they came to London, and I was tasked with creating a retail safari, which I always do. That was fine.
Retail safari. That's a great way to call it. A great way to describe it.
Like, well, where are we going? And I would take them to, very British places, and we would go and look at new retail. But I always like people to see different things. And everyone would schlep up and down Oxford Street the whole time. Everyone used to do that. Every buyer and designer I know, right? It's and do like competitive analysis. Fine. But I wanted to give them some inspiration. So, which I still do. I still love a retail safari. I still do retail safaris, but different places and cultural safaris with clients.
Yeah.
And so it's obviously something that I've always loved to do without realizing it. And I must have been I was quite young. I just came out of freelancing. I didn't really understand the whole system. So I was like, yeah, let's go to Camden. It's really cool here. And at the time it was very, I guess Amy Winehouse-y kind
Yeah.
of cool. I used to hang out there a lot. It's like, yeah.
Very inspiring, very on the street trends.
Yeah. And like I said, it was the time pre-meet social media. That's what we had to do. So I thought I'd take them there. It wasn't all glass fronted as it is now. There's a bit more to it in terms of a bit dark corners that you weren't really sure what was going on, which is great. I was like, I'll take all these Midwest Americans. They'll love it. And they actually, some of them were really like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? Because Camden High Street is full of all sorts of characters. And I took them to market, we got falafel for lunch, and I took them to all these different little stalls. And I said, oh, you know what's really fun? Cyberdog is super fun. Like, you should come in here.
Is it still here? Is it still there, Cyberdog?
I think it's still there.
The noisiest shop I've ever been in.
And at the time, I think maybe we were looking at neon accessories. I can't remember. It was like 2010, 11. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And I was a bit of a goth then as well. And I had this like long black leather coat on. I'm like, yeah, coming to Cyberdog. And so I take like these 14 Midwest buyers in this like rave shop. They're like,
Brilliant.
oh, and I said, oh, just have a look around. It's fine. And I could see some of their faces. I was thinking, this is a step too far. But, okay.
I pushed them over the edge.
Yeah, they're all just looking in terror. So I said, well, wait outside. But the EVP and the CMO, who were like, I don't know, very elegant ladies in their 50s, said, oh, no, we'll have a look around. This is interesting. And they were the people that I was thinking, oh, okay, this is not going to be for them. But all the buyers left, they stayed. Okay, great. They started to pick things up. Oh, we'll buy this glow-in-the-dark T-shirt. We'll buy, this is great. This is great. I said, all right, then. I'll see you in a minute. I couldn't find them after about 5 minutes. They'd gone down. I forgot what was downstairs.
Oh, no.
The X-rated section, which is full of really X-rated things for X-rated clubbing situations.
Gosh.
And I go
You pulled into the HR department on Monday morning.
Well, luckily, they just thought it was quite amusing to be surrounded by, interesting sexual artifacts. Let's just put it that way. And I wasn't sure. I just thought I'm going to get fired. This is going to go down really badly. They're going to think I'm some sort of kink, which they seemed quite, I don't know, quite uptight. So, but anyway, they came out with a handful of stuff.
Wow.
There, but they loved Cyberdog, and the mid-50s elegant ladies who lunched they're my new best friends, because they thought I knew all this interesting stuff.
Well, I would say you're ahead of your time, because those interesting sexual artifacts are now of the moment now, aren't they?
Yes.
Lots of people are going into that area of product.
Exactly. I mean, I think women's sexual pleasure has been underrated for a long time, but that wasn't really my intention.
No.
At the time, it was just to look at an interesting retail space.
Oh, brilliant. I love it. Well, do you know what? It's been absolutely amazing chatting to you. And I think we could chat for hours, as we always do whenever we jump into each other. And we'll put all of the details to your membership and your website and your socials on our show notes, and anybody can reach out to you and have a chat and find out if it's for them. But yeah, it's fantastic what you guys are doing, and I'm sure we'll bump into you again at the next trade show and catch up and see how you're getting on.
Oh, thank you so much, Lindsay. Thank you.
No worries. Okay, thanks, Louise. Bye.
If you've enjoyed listening to this episode, please, please, please like and subscribe and leave a review.
And if you already have, thank you, thank you, thank you. We all need a bit of retail therapy, and this is the perfect time for you to offload about that super cringeworthy story. We would love to hear from you all, your funny stories and experiences, or even any dilemmas. And maybe we can help, or at least find someone who can. And don't worry, we will keep these anonymous and remove any names and brands.
We would also love to hear from you on any topics you would like us to talk about. Please send all of these into buyingandbeyond@gmail.com or drop us a DM via our Instagram page @buyingandbeyond. Kate, are you a drama queen?
No,
Drama just makes things interesting.
that's true.
All these thoughts and opinions are our own and based on our own experiences working for a wide variety of retailers. These are all in the hope to entertain and educate, and not to reflect negatively on any place we currently or have previously worked.